everybody, welcome to another episode here at No BS Just Marriage. As always, so thankful for you all to join us. We have another great one today. I'm excited. Again, my name is Boris. This is my lovely wife.
Hey everybody, I'm Stephanie.
Yes, and we're going to jump right into it this time. You're going to explain it, right? You want to go ahead and tell everybody it's a different one. This one is a lot of controversy, but
there is a lot of controversies.
I'm here for it. Go ahead, tell them what we're talking about.
So the topic in question is who comes first, your spouse, your parents, or your children. Now, the topic is we're not going to dive into it in detail.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is, so we had our friends come over a couple days ago and we were just having a conversation and this topic came up. It was a nice debate from both ends. And so I just wanted to get a different perspective from, my followers. And so I was like, man, you should put on your Instagram too, just to see where everybody's mind was at. And so it was just very interesting to see the different types of responses. But I think what made that so different is a lot of people just started DMing me their reasoning behind their response. So
strong opinions, man.
There was a lot of strong opinions. So I kind of want to unpack those comments and, out of respect to them, I'm not going to show their face. I will show the screenshots of, their
comments, the replies.
Yeah, the replies. But like I said, we will go in deeper with this topic in our following episode. But this is just a reaction video based on the poll that we did.
So, jump right in. You want to
go
first?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll do the first comment that we got. So this person said, well, we just had our baby and that bond is unexplainable. So they said, that being said, my order currently is child, spouse, parents. So because they just had a baby, they have an unnatural, unexpected bond that they have with this child. So child is first, spouse is second, parents last. So what you got for that?
The bond with your child, especially a newborn, especially if this is your first child, that feeling will always be indescribable. Especially knowing that you gave birth to somebody that is a mini version of you. So I get it. So it feels natural to want to put them above everything. And I feel like a lot of people may feel the same way as well.
Yeah. I think also because they just had the baby, of course, you love that thing, especially if it's the first.
Not thing.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call it a thing. Just you love this being because it just came out of you. It's your first, child. You've had your spouse for the past whatever years. You had your parents all your life. So I think it's just this new love, and that's their temporary feeling right now. Maybe they'll feel like that forever. Not really here to change minds right now. But we're just kind of giving feedback. But anyways, nonetheless, I think that's kind of why this whole who comes first conversation stirs people up. I think because on one hand, you've got that raw emotion that's pulling up towards your child. And on the other hand, though, you've got the question of the order. Where does your spouse go? Where does God fit? And those two don't always line up neatly. So it's hard to try to answer from your heart, but think about, the moral ways or the actual, the correct way to think about it.
Exactly. I think that's where confusion comes in. And when people hear spouse first, they think it means you love your child less, and that's not true at all. Or they hear child first and think it means you don't care about your marriage. But it's deeper than that. It's not about ranking love. It's about understanding these roles and working together and having a mutual understanding.
Absolutely.
Without competing.
Absolutely. And this question is difficult on purpose. Obviously this is in question because it's very, very hard for people to try to put the three probably most important people, the three most people that they love most in any type of order. Is just it feels so wrong to do. But we're here to talk on it since we got replies. But I do think that's why we're talking about it. It's not just a debate. I think it's something that families actually wrestle with every day. It's not just something that's a fun question that we never have to think about, because in the end we're gonna have to unpack all that, and I think we'll do that in this episode. So let's go to the next one.
Okay. The next one is, well, this wasn't really a response. This was just
Straight up answer.
straight up answer. And they said spouse, parents, children. Yeah. And so the funny thing about this particular response is this wasn't even an option in the poll. They just went ahead and gave us their own order, which obviously proves a point because everyone has their own version of what order means to them and what feels right. There was no way that I was going to be able to put every variation
Mhm.
of an order because, number one, Instagram only gives you 4 options for a poll. And if I did different variations for each order, it would have been 9. And
Mm,
so
okay, I didn't know there was a limit. So you couldn't do 5 and put other. You could even 4 was the max.
4 was the
I think you're
max.
right. Yeah,
And the point is not to give y'all so many options to choose from. I gave the options that are,
most popular probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
most popular. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, that
I'm
makes
not,
sense.
I don't want to make people too, like, I don't want people to be thinking too deep about this. It was
Mm.
just a fun way to see how
Yeah,
everybody's perspective was.
I know when we asked about it, they admitted that this is just how my life looks right now. So
Mm,
obviously makes sense. They don't have any kids. So of course their perspective is going to be different. So that's another thing. People's lives are a lot different. Some people, I don't know. I don't want to put too many situations and scenarios, but point being, everybody's
hmm.
life is different. So their orders is going to be based off of that, whatever makes the most sense to them.
I mean, I feel like people answer based on what is going on in their current stage of life anyway. So that would only make sense for this particular person because if you don't have kids, obviously you might look at it in a different way, especially if you're newly married, it looks a different way. Or once you're a parent, you understand that your answers might flip. Like I could see why there are different variations
Of course. Yeah.
for people.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's kind of why this whole who comes first thing can be boiled down to a simple list. It's layered and we're going to unpack all of it on the next episode. Yes, this is 2 parts. Yes, sorry. Um, Let me read the next one. This person said, I guess they put their parents first. It just says, because my parents have limited time on this earth. So don't know their order exactly, but their parents sound like their parents are first.
Which is deep.
Which,
It's
yeah,
deep.
yeah. So that's a good point. Parents, limited
Hmm.
time. Who knows what kind of bond they had with their parents, what struggles they've been through with their parents. Maybe they just formed this new bond with their parents. I don't know, but that's their. What you got to say about that?
Um, excuse me. I feel them. It was a deep comment. It was a deep response, and I feel like they definitely were coming from their heart because at the end of the day, our parents were our first love. So I could see why they would say that. And you realize your parents are getting older and you realize you really don't have forever with them. So you want to make sure that, you're spending as much time with them. And that urgency will always make you feel like you have to always put them first.
Mm, got you. That makes sense. I completely get that. I think obviously the parents are the ones who raised you. They're the one that poured into you. They sacrificed so much for you. So
Mhm.
when you realize their time isn't ultimately going to be shorter, it makes sense why somebody would, feel that way and choose them first before spouse or children. So yeah, that's a crazy perspective to think about. This is deep. So many lives are just so different. I don't know.
And that's what makes this whole thing, who comes first, it's just so complicated.
Yeah.
Everybody's pulling from different places, whether that's from love or loyalty or the reality of time. And so that's why you can't just brush it off with a simple answer. There's no real way to put it for certain people, especially like I said earlier, when they're going through a certain stage of their life.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. That's what makes it so real though. I think it's not just an order on paper. It's people with their heart and their reality. They really have to think about this answer.
Yeah.
That's why we wanted to sit
Hmm.
and have this conversation. The next one.
Okay.
This is a good one too.
Okay. So this one says, my dad would put me ahead of himself even at my age, so that's all I need to know. Spouse only second because we both want what's best for our kid above our own comfort or whatever.
They explained their whole life to you.
No, people
This
were
was
going in like I wish we put all the comments, but we don't want to be here for hours. And I get his comment. I get all the comments that we've received. This comment particular speaks from sacrifice. sacrifice firsthand of what they saw growing up. When you've watched your parents put you before themselves, it leaves a mark and it makes you believe that's what love is supposed to look like.
And that's deep. I completely respect that. I think it shows the power of example. If your dad modeled selflessness, it makes complete sense why you'd carry that same mindset into how you see
Mm-hmm.
family order.
Yeah.
You're repeating what you experienced and something that you experienced that was so great. So
Yeah.
how could you say any other order? So
Yeah. And
it's
yeah, I feel you. And they're not just pulling these answers out of air. You know what I'm saying? Like they're pulling from what shaped them, from what they've lived, what they've seen, and what they've survived. So when someone says my kid comes first, you're thinking to yourself, it's not just about the kid, it's about the history and what taught them that.
okay. So that's pretty much why this debate it hits very different for everybody, for anyone. That's why we got these variations of responses. I think for some it's about covenant, for others it's about the bond they have with their kids, and for others it's about honoring what their parents have shown them. So
Yeah.
that's why there's no easy answer. We have our answer, we have one we follow, but it's just a real conversation that needs to be had now
Mm-hmm.
that we got all these responses flying at us. So
Mm.
let's get to the next one. I will read. This was a strong one. This one says, I chose my wife before anyone. However, she clearly puts our children first. In retaliation, my order has since been children, then parents, then spouse.
Mm.
That that is we definitely can't put the face on this one because the woman go beat him.
I mean, it's the ugly truth, but we would never put anybody's business out there. But all that aside, he might have to just so she can understand how he's feeling.
I have to what?
Tell her how he feels because it seems like you're retaliating for some like did y'all even have a
I was
conversation
about to
about
say, I
this?
wonder if we're the first people that this person is expressing that to, because
Mm,
then that
yeah. So yeah, that's heavy. And to me, it wasn't just about the list. I felt the pain in that comment, and that's somebody saying like, I gave you first place, but I don't feel like you give it back to me. That's what I heard.
I this retaliation word, that's like what's crazy to me. But I think if marriage turns into retaliation, I think that's when the foundation is literally cracking. It's not about covenant at that point, it's about payback. There's no end goal for them as a union,
Hmm.
and the sad part is I think the very kids that you're trying to put first are the ones who end up feeling the
Hmm.
effects the most,
Yeah.
because you two are the ones raising the children and you're putting your spouse last or
Yeah.
second. I forgot. That's just
Yeah.
that's wild.
Kids don't just need love from their parents individually, they need to see their parents loving each other. And when that order breaks, they lose a sense of stability. And so this isn't just a debate about priority. This is about what happens to the whole house when one person feels pushed to the side.
Okay. So yeah, and I think that's why this conversation matters. It's not about what looks right on paper. It's about what keeps your family whole. That's I think that's very important. Next one. The lights are flickering. It is a storm outside. Hopefully this is, oh my
Oh my
goodness. This
goodness.
better not go out on us.
Okay. There is a thunderstorm.
Yeah, it is a storm.
Okay, so let's get to this episode quickly. Next comment says, wait, did I do it? Okay. Spouse, most important, kids gonna grow up and find a spouse. Your spouse is your for lifer.
This was
All right, so thanks for your patience, guys. We just had a power outage and we lost our main camera, so we'll just have our side by side for now. But back to that comment, it was a great, strong point because at the end of the day, kids aren't meant to stay forever. You raise them, you pour into them, but eventually they go and they have to build their own families as well. So,
got you. Understood. I completely agree. I think your spouse, that's the one that you made a covenant with. That's the one who's supposed to be standing by your side when the kids leave, when the house is quiet, when it's just the two of you again. So that's one thing I think people forget.
yeah, exactly. And that's why this order of conversation stirs people so much because in the moment it feels like their kids are their everything. And they are, but they're not long term. Your kids are supposed to start their own families, like I said earlier. And the health of your marriage is what gives those kids stability while they're still here. And it's still with you even after they're gone.
I agree. I think that's another reason why we wanted to have this conversation. I think it's not about loving one more than the other. It's about remember who's walking with you for life.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Final comment, right? So this one, we have a strong, I think we saved the best for last. This one has a very strong opinion on this topic. And they said, I hate this question so much. People are dumb. If your wife is giving birth and having complications, and the doctor says you have to choose between your wife or child to live, anyone who says anything other than child, spouse, parents is lying. So, very deep, lot to unpack. Kind of valid points, but I think this is where people get it twisted. I think the whole God, spouse, kids order is about everyday life. It's about how you set your priorities, it's how you keep your marriage strong so that the whole house is stable. I think that's the foundation of what this question is. But when it comes to something like childbirth, that's a whole different conversation. That's not about rank. That's about life or death. And I do get why people mix the two up because, of course, it sounds like the same conversation, but ultimately it's not. One is about family structure, and then the other one is about survival, life or death. That was a strong one to end with. You got anything else to say about it?
Yeah, that was a very, very deep, deep response. And I see where this person is coming from. But I don't know, it's a tough pill to swallow. I'm not trying to dismiss how they're feeling, but what I will say is, and this is one of my favorite phrases, husbands need to learn their wives, learn what they want, or even like communicate about what their expectations are before delivering a baby. Because yes, you feel strongly about, obviously, you would choose your child in that moment, but there are women that won't choose their child in that moment. And there's no wrong answer, right? Because the husband cannot just assume my wife would want me to choose the kids or my wife would want me to choose her. Don't make that assumption, please. Have a conversation before you get into that delivery room so there's no resentment from any of like either spouses of whatever that outcome is, because it is a heavy statement, but
It's a tough conversation.
it is a tough conversation. But that's a very different life and death situation. These types of scenarios don't happen every day, right? She could have used, like, she could have even said like, oh, if there's a house burning and like your kids and your parents or your spouse was in there, like, who are you going to save first? Obviously you're going to want to choose your child in that moment. Like, the adult can try to figure it out how to get out the house by themselves, right? You're going to choose your kids in that moment. But the delivery one is just such a tricky statement. And I think that's a case by case scenario depending on who you're dealing with in that moment. So you may feel strongly about that, but I don't think that one is a definite. I don't know how to explain it. Like,
Is it like all or nothing type of?
yeah,
I got you. Yeah, that one was deep for sure. I think we have way more to unpack next episode, so we'll end it there. I think we did due diligence on all the responses that we got. Most, this being most of the responses. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Again, join in next week for part 2. So excited to have that one. As excited as we were for this episode. But again, thank you for joining. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And we'll catch you next week. Thank you, guys.
bye.
Peace.